we always like to explain, each chapter is a different topic. So for those who are just joining today, just listening to the lesson today, there is not going to be a problem in terms of you breaking the concepts. Every chapter is a new concept. And today we are going to talk about scandals. It's necessary that scandals come. Who knows from whom the scandals come, right? So let us start with reading, and we will ask everyone to participate with comments and questions to make this hour that we are going to be spending together more beneficial for all of us. So scandals. The word scandal means any and all acts that go against good morals. So just in case we are not very clear with what scandal means, it's not something just, out of the ordinary that happens that can call our attention, but something that goes against good morals. It may even be something that we do on our day-to-day basis. People do at their day-to-day basis, but it's still, just because we are doing this, it doesn't mean that they are laudable. So actions that disrespect established laws and behaviors that violate ethical standards. When we are talking about that, I'm going slow because I think it's very important for us to focus on this and to clarify all of this. We are not just talking about human laws. Of course, the minimal obligation that we have is to at least respect human laws, right? But we know that human laws are not necessarily still in pace with the divine laws. But it's a guidance already. Every time, every century, we've been improving. The laws have been more according to how it should be, getting each time closer to the divine laws. But we are talking here at least not to violate the human laws and thinking about ethical standards. And it's interesting because there is one question in the Spirit's books that asks, where is written the law of God? And they say in our conscience. So it doesn't need to be written in the, in the human laws necessarily, right? It is already in our own conscience. So we know, even like when we said at the beginning that people can, let's say that people can do many things, and they will, sorry, yeah, there was some noise in the background, and people will follow just the human laws, that even if we are doing that, or everyone is doing things that are not according to the divine laws, it doesn't justify us, and we know what is wrong. So one could say that a scandal is violence against the equilibrium that should prevail in the social group, where the rights and duties of all citizens are respected and define their moral character. A scandal may have endogenous and exogenous causes. The former one arises from the individual's spiritual past, resulting from an imbalance in the form of aggressiveness and power invested against others, giving rise to deplorable situations. The latter are the result of one's education in the home and the social environment in which the personality has been developed and structured, or they may result from addictions that cause delusions such as alcohol and other addictive substances. So here, there may be inner or external causes. Inner in the sense that we know that we are not a blank slate, right? We come from many lives. We bring our experiences with us, we bring our tendencies with us, and we bring our actions with us that will result in consequences, right? The law of cause and effect that will result in consequences. So we will see how we behave and how we still feel about things that are related to our past incarnations. But of course, what we are gathering in this incarnation as well has tremendous value. That's the reason why we reincarnate, right? To learn from our parents, first of all, our households, from the society, from the environment we are raised. All of that is going to be taken into consideration in terms of our behaviors that will go against good morals. And when another reason that she says that this can provoke ourselves to derail in our behaviors is when we are not in full capacity of our ability to reason. And this is going to happen depending on substances that we are, consuming. And in this case, of course, we know that addictive substances and alcohol, doesn't allow us to, obviously, depending on how you are taking this, it doesn't allow you to reason well. Any comments or questions at this point?
Yusara, I love, we always say Joanna de Angelis is very difficult to understand, but this is quite understandable. It's like she says here, we're not innocent, and especially when we are learning right now through Spiritism itself, that we have our conscience, right? If we want to fool ourselves, we could, but we have to look deep down inside of ourselves that what we're doing and have no excuses for it. And all the imbalances that we go through, we learn through life that we can't hide behind anything. It is there for us to see. If we want not see it, then it's our prerogative if we don't. But in this here situation here, she explains it well. Because I find Joanna de Angelis getting better every time we study her.
And one interesting thing while you were saying, I was thinking, we cannot blame, our environment. We cannot blame our household because we know, right? You may have two children and they're going to raise it the same way and they are going to be totally different. So how do you explain this action? So it's going to blame on the father or the mother or the school that you attended or society when you are the byproduct of the same kind of environment. So here is important when she says about the inner tendencies that we bring, our own history and how we have been applying ourselves. And I like very much, although she uses the word as the topic for this chapter, scandals, she make it very clear that we are talking about actions that goes against good morals, and not sometimes, some light interpretations we may have about this word,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It goes deep.
Yes, it does.
Okay,
I
so
think that some of the activities of our society, whether they be engendered in the home or in a particular part of the society, are the things that we're talking about here, which, while accepted by one group, is to diminish another group.
mhm.
And those things still exist to a large extent.
Yes, you are absolutely sure. We see that all around. But in any case, I think that we see progress in the way that now, in many cases, people try to hide
Mm.
their thoughts, because they already know that they are not approved by society as a whole, which doesn't mean that it's true. This is what they are feeling, but it's one step ahead. So in 2-3 reincarnations, sorry, this
Yes.
can change. I was listening to a talk the other day explaining why one of the reasons why perhaps Moses took 40 years to reach the Holy Land, because it's not such that long distance to take 40 years from Egypt to the Holy Land. And one of the interpretation is that it was really providential, because many of those that left Egypt were already very comfortable, although they were slaves, or they were very comfortable with the Egyptian way of life and thinking. And even when they made the golden calf, that was an Egyptian god that was called Apis. So they were putting together there an Egyptian god to pray, although they were Hebrews, right? And then they say it was because during that journey, there was a renewal of people. A lot of them died along the way. A lot of them were being born. So 40 years, you can imagine. I mean, at that time, that average life was maybe less than 30 years old, especially for those who were working under such harsh conditions. So the new generation were not used or did not know exactly of the ways of Egypt. So when they arrived there, they were, much more malleable to all the structure that they were going to have according to the Hebrew understanding way of living. So yeah, that is something that happened as well. So we are going through this transition, the elimination of the old ideas and the coming of new ones. Okay. So Jesus referred to the sordidness of such attitudes and the insolence of aggressions against ethical customs. So this is not a new thing, right? This is something that has been there at least from the time of Jesus. He stated that scandals are necessary for one to be able to access and maintain respect for everything that stimulates progress and keeps order. He also considered the attitude of those who were concerned about unveiling these moral wounds of the human soul as if they themselves were not bearers of equally reproachable wrongs. He certainly did not advise collusion or guilty silence, nor the cynical attitude of hiding the unworthy act in such a way that it becomes a scandalous attitude. So here we referred at the beginning, about those things happening, right? And calling the attention of us, even for us to reason and to think, I mean, this is not the way I want things to be, or I want things, to happen to me. At the same time, understanding that we cannot just point our fingers to the behavior of others when we are perhaps doing the same thing. And it's not also productive for us just to remain feeling guilty or something, or not necessarily also bringing about things that are not correct, because we don't want to get involved in any kind of situation. So this is another thing for us to, it's like the omission that I don't want to get into this kind of this discussion. I don't want to compromise myself. And then we stayed watching negative actions happening without doing anything. But when this doing anything is not to get into confrontation, is not to resort to aggressiveness, to any kind of violence that is going to result even in worse things for others and for ourselves. Any comments, questions? Okay. On Earth these days, we are experiencing a time of aggression, of impotence, of morbidity, which cannot be silenced. Censorable events are repeated to such an extent that somehow some of them have almost acquired social citizenship, generating acceptance with a certain naturalness. Oh my God, this paragraph is so important. Again, like I said, it's not because everyone else is doing that I'm saying, well, I can do as well, or even if I don't like it, it's okay because there are so many people doing that, okay? So there must be the new normal. No, this is what she's saying, that there is no new normal in terms of going against good morals. And in a way, we have to position ourselves, even if it's not to say anything. Is the simple fact that we are not going to join forces with those that are acting against, what should be, the good actions, the good morals. We are not going to join them. So we don't need, like we said, to go into a crusade, maybe losing our ways as well in this crusade, right? Because you see, and even talking about the crusades at that time, they went there with the justification that it's okay to kill on behalf of Jesus. Those are Gentiles, people that doesn't follow the teachings of Christ. So I'm entitled to do with them whatever I can. Right. So this is not something that we should bring here as well. But we are not going to stand next to people there, and if necessary and when necessary, we will voice ourselves as well. But mostly, remember, examples are much more powerful than words and preachings. But
does anyone have an example of this activity today that they can state?
I would say, Philip, you know, remember, I may not remember quite well all the facts, but when that man, that African American, was killed, not on purpose, but was killed in that action, when the police use it so much force and raise it, all the a movement to call attention to this situation. I mean, this happened unfortunately quite often, but that case per se, I think, was one of the cases that we could use here, saying, you know, it's not because it has been normal, this kind of, you know, police force, especially in relation to African Americans or minorities, that is justified. So is we say, oh no, this happens every day, or we go in, you know, judging that, you know, this is the way it is. I mean, I would say this could be an example, maybe not the best one, but it could be an example of this situation.
You're talking about the I can't breathe type of activity.
Yes, exactly, the I can breathe. Yes, that's the one that I was thinking, you know.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But you see, to many people, that would be perhaps still justifiable, you know. Oh, they were just doing what they think they had to do. No, we are going to make a stand and say, no, this is not acceptable, right? Okay. In his speech, foul words have become commonplace and express vulgarities that people allow themselves when instead they should behave correctly. The same happens in relationships, in business, in the interpretation of laws, causing chaos in matters of moral correctness. Degrading behaviors have become so common that they do not seem to warrant the least censure. The family is almost completely unstructured, making it impossible for its members to conduct themselves in a balanced manner and to educate the children. So, oh my God, right? She talks about our vocabulary. Remember the words, the Hindus have a word for that they call mantra, okay? The repetition of words of power. So words have power. And although they may be pronounced, you know, just because now is the way people talking and the way people were raised, it doesn't mean that they do not come with a negative charge that are going to impact others. I remember I have one drawing that express these that we use normally to children and youth, where there is an old person that is behind before three kids, and you see that they are, you know, with this, that those symbols that they are saying, you know, using bad vocabulary, and that person is completely in shadow and the kids are not. So this is the first drawing. The second one, as the person continues until the fourth one, the children become with the contaminated with this shadow, as well as more as they are listening to those words. So when we are engaged in conversation of you know, with lewd words and those vocabularies, in some ways it also affects us. It affects the atmosphere that we are in here. Relationships now, people you know, are not paying that much attention to relationship, and not acting necessarily with good morals. The values of the family are being questionable as well. So it's the time for us to pay attention and not just to accommodate, thinking, like I said, this is the normal situation in this era that we are living. Any comment, question? But everything starts with us. It's not here. I mean, she's talking to us personally, because the change we want to see in the world, it starts in us, like Gandhi used to say. It's very easy for me to go outside and say, I don't like your behavior. I don't like the way you talk. I don't think the way you raised your children is the best way, the way you conduct your family till today, the relationships with your colleagues at the world, at the work, at the government, and this and that. And we are just criticizing. And with that, most of the time, justifying our non-efforts to become different, because the word would be, the expression would be, what's the point? The point is, if everyone takes care of their little garden, all of a sudden we are going to see beautiful flowers like I have in my background here all over the world. But it's you taking care of your little garden, even if it's just a very small one. Okay. Yes, Marley.
Well, I was a secret swearer, and I never swore in public, but at home, when something happened that really irritated me, I would swear. And I mean a lot, And something inside of me told me that this was not good. And I was always afraid that at some point in public, I just might use a swear word. And I wouldn't want to do that either. And so I really concentrated on it, and now I'm really not doing it, and I'm really happy about it. But some people drink in private and those kind of things. Well, swearing in private is just as bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like just as you just say, it's not what goes into your mouth, but what comes from your mouth, because this is what you have in your heart, right? And sometimes it's very important that you mention that we put a mask, right? We put a persona to act in the world, but this is not who we are. And with the example that you were saying, it came to a point that you will start becoming, really uncomfortable with this behavior, because probably your spirit was already longing from a different kind of energy. Right? I mean, because like I said, it's not the word per se, is the energy that comes with the word, because once we know that this word means something, right, more drastic, when I pronounce the word, I pronounce with all the content that the word possesses. When I say apple, immediately my whole being, my mind is thinking about an apple. And when I think in a bad word, swearing, my energy will go in connection with what this word means. And it comes to a point that it is not because you wanted to be, example of purity, but it doesn't work anymore with us. And we start being more sensitive to the energy that it brings without us realizing. So it is it's discipline. And it's very hard, like you say, because when we are surrounded by people with the same behavior, and it seems so normal, like nowadays, youth that greets each other using bad mouth, right? So bad words, right? Hey, I'm not even going to say anything here, but you can use your imagination. And I mean,
It's the norm.
yeah, but it cannot
I'm
be.
sure-
Yeah. And I mean, it's good that we are learning now. Sometimes we may even think, well, what else can I do? Okay, I can do my part. Maybe it's not much, but we are going to come back, and we are going to be kids again, young again, and learning now. It will increase our possibility for all this change in the world. It's not overnight by leaps and bounds that everything happened. And sometimes we get disappointed and many people give up because they are not seeing happening in the speed they would like it to happen. But it's happening. Okay. So moral values have given way to quasi-legal bribes, and great responsibilities are replaced with infractions and conspiratorial delusions of dishonesty, theft, deception. Consequently, it is not surprising that society itself is reeling for lack of a foundation of moral and spiritual security. These are erroneous and shameful situations. There are erroneous and shameful situations everywhere, giving rise to discouragement and sadness. Doing what is right is almost seen as a reprehensible attitude. When these scandals involve apparently respected and socially upstanding individuals, the resonance in other people's lives is disturbing, with unpredictable consequences. In the human collective, they encourage crime and the disintegration of dignity. Fortunately, the divine laws are waiting for those who defraud them to apply strict and necessary corrective measures. Every action will have a reaction. And whatever we sowing today, we are going to reap tomorrow the result of our carelessness for what our conscience is calling us. We already having human laws, and if we still continue engaging in this kind of behaviors, negative kind of behaviors, we are not, we cannot think that we are not going to receive the consequence of those actions. So again, because especially in some countries, corruption is so widespread, criminality starts from the top, and sometimes when we see, like it says here, apparently respected and socially upstanding individuals doing negative things, instead of saying, oh my God, that's horrible, say, oh look, they are doing there on the top, I want to do here in the bottom as well, right? I want my piece of the cake as well. They are eating almost the whole cake, but I want something for myself as well. And we start engaging in the same behaviors, or accepting because, oh, if they are doing, maybe it's in fashion now to do that. No, morals are morals, good behaviors are good behaviors, and everything will have a consequence. You see that expression, the criminal will always return to the place of where he committed the crime. Yes, because it will always be on their mind. They may not go back there physically speaking, but spiritually speaking, they will be there all the time, living, reliving, you know, mulling over, and even after, you know, passing away, it's still going to be on their minds until they ask for an opportunity to make amends. So this is the same thing. It's going to be with us. The good things, the bad things. So now it's time for us to start getting advantage of all this knowledge and understanding and changing our ways. Okay. So should I continue reading, or you have anything to say? Okay, so let's see if we can finish. Go ahead, Sonia.
Then my point is like a question, because I believe all of us can see all of this all around our life, like not good behavior, bad words using and spread between young people, and much more, not corruptions and a lot of things around us. And then some of people believe this is normal. And every time when we say something different, they, oh, you are, oh, yes, you are good. Oh, don't say this. Then it's like, don't believe. My point in my question is, sometimes when I be in silence, I feel little guilt to not say or express myself or opinion, to put down these people, or like give some sign for them. But in the other hand, every time when I say something, they answer me with an aggressive way. Then I never know what can I do. Now I know a little better. Oh, I need to focus in myself. But for me, it's not easy to be quiet and be silenced without feel guilt, not to say some words for them, to guide them. I'm not so good to guide them, of course, but you know what I mean? Then in my question, then it's a balance, difficult to live in this way.
I understand perfectly well, Sonia. You know, normally people do not like to be told what to do or how to behave here. And not even our children, that they could think, you know, yeah, they are my parents, they are more entitled to say something than other people. So even if our, you know, inner circle, those that live, you know, in the same house, all of that, sometimes it's impossible for us to do that. Even when we are talking about immediate family, it doesn't mean that we will have, you know, we'll be well accepted in our comments. I think we really have to measure them. I mean, sometimes, like they say, it's better to fight the big wars than the little things on the day-to-day basis that start irritating people and making them more in a situation of not accepting your comments. I think, you know, the best thing, I think, is really to stay silent and continue to be who you are and how you behave. And if they insist, and you know, instead, well, this is my way, this is how I feel good. And I mean, and end with that. This is my way. This is the way I feel good. I don't feel, I mean, I if it's not part of my vocabulary, it's not part of my vocabulary. So you do what you think you have to do. And I mean, and little by little, they are going to learn. You see, some things in terms of behaviors, in terms of our ways, it has to come from inside. It doesn't help that much how much we are going to be repeating things over and over. And again, you know, save your energy for the big fights. If we start causing already this discomfort just because the person say one word too much, when I have to say something that is more important, the person is already like, you know, not wanting to hear anything else that we want to say. Having said that, of course, there are people that are more under our responsibility in a way, like our children, like our immediate family. So it's not that we have to silence all the time, but we have to find more effective ways of sending the message across without being, you know, us getting into a confrontation. And many times if I say, oh, you say too much this word, and then they start saying, oh, it's because you're too old, or because you want to be too spiritual. I mean, you lost everything, right? And now they, out of stubbornness, they are going to keep on doing that just because they want to show that you are the one that is old-fashioned or something, or something like this. You know, I don't think, in my opinion, it's worth going ahead in this particular kind of conversation, you know. I don't know.
Yes, because sometimes I feel like a victory. Oh, I was in silence. Wow,
Yes.
I can do it then. But sometimes I feel like I should say something in that moment, but I don't want to confront, to fight. Then it's not easy to try to teach people or influence people surround us just with our behavior, not use our words. Oh my goodness, it's okay. I understand the lesson.
I mean, there is no right formula here, okay? No. Sometimes this is what we want, right? What is the right formula? There isn't any. You see, at the same time that we cannot be all the time in silence, when we speak, we have to be very careful with what we say and how to say and the moment we are saying it. So it requires a lot of effort. I just remember one phrase that I love so much about from Abraham Lincoln, that he says it's better to remain in silence and people thinking you're stupid than start talking and eliminating all doubt. Something like this, you know. It's not the case, but just thinking about how precious silence is. And if we cannot be sure that when we are going to say something is going to be even more detrimental to the cause than is staying in silence, it's better for us to stay in silence and, you know, maybe trying in a more subliminal way, like, oh, look how nice that person, the way she talks is always so nice, and use, instead of criticizing other that person that is using this vocabulary, you praise others that communicate in a different way. Oh my God, she's young as well, but look how she speaks so calmly and always so polite and so nice. So it's a good way of perhaps going around things, and but I understand, because if at one point, it's saying we cannot be indifferent, right, to situations that are wrong, we have to know how to act as well, not to make things worse. And
That's very difficult. Sometimes, I mean, just the other day I was on the subway and a mother with very young children cursed at them because they did something she did not appreciate. And the thing she doesn't recognize is she's teaching them to use those very same words.
yeah. I'm a person that rarely you see me, if at all, swearing, because my father was always adamant in us not using any kind of bad word, and he didn't, and my mother as well. So I was not raised around this kind of vocabulary, and even if I hear it outside of the house, this was not acceptable in our home, and yeah, and so it became my second nature. And even when I grew up and came to my teenager years, I never felt really the need of cursing. And of course, I mean, I was different, right? Because among so many other things, I was the weird person, right? Vegetarian, etc. at that time, right? So yeah, but that's how we have to do: respect others, and try as much as we can to teach by examples. Okay. I'm not going to try to finish today this topic, because she continues that topic, then talking about mediumship. So I think it's better not to rush, and there will be and I mean, I think we have to savor every of the words that we have from Joanna de Angelis, right? Okay, if you don't have any more comments or questions.